Hi, my name is Belgica and I'm an actress, and I recently uploaded a video telling you guys about every time I've had to kiss somebody for stage, film, for acting in general, and you saw that they weren't very comfortable experiences, so I posted on a amazing group called Women Plus in Theater on Facebook, and Kate was kind enough to reply and open herself for an interview. So today we're going to be talking with Kate. Some of you guys let me know that being intimate for acting is one of your biggest fears surrounding acting. So hopefully today Kate, who has a Ph.D. in Theater and Performance Studies from the University of Missouri, hopefully she can help us with some tips and just how to approach this in your scene, during rehearsal, with your partner, you know, your scene partner and your life partner if you have a significant other, and how to do it respectfully.
So I stumbled into intimacy work entirely by accident, which is how a lot of intimacy directors got started. I was in graduate school working on a production, and I was understudying two of my friends who were really lovely people to work with, and I really enjoyed working with them, but they had a falling out during the rehearsal process. In the production, they had to stage a scene of intimacy where the male character was going down on the female character. And she has this big monologue while all of this is happening. And we finally get to Tech Week, and the director did what the director knew how to do and just said, you guys figure it out. And then unfortunately, you know, they looked at each other like, what do we do? So they came over to me because they knew I was the one who had, I have a very extensive background in violence work. So I do a lot with the Society of American Fight Directors, and I've certified in almost all of the weapons except for one. I'm 5 hours shy. Yeah, so a lot of us in intimacy world actually have a background in theatrical violence. And so they came to me, they said, you do movement stuff. Can you help us out? And I said, sure. I stumbled into it this way, and that was all the way back in 2011. I've been an intimacy designer for a long time. People use director, choreographer, designer, specialist kind of interchangeably. It just depends on who you're talking to of what term they use. I personally like designer. I feel it more accurately describes the work I do. And so I started my company, Heartland Intimacy Design and Training, because there was a major gap within the intimacy training world of, you know, that there is, you know, intimacy directors and choreographers, you know, they're a fantastic company, but unfortunately, you know, their training is very expensive. And there are a lot of people who need this knowledge and need this work and don't necessarily have those same access and resources. So my goal was to develop a fully, you know, well-vetted pedagogy and create an online training process for intimacy work so that people all over the country, regardless of where you are, regardless of what resources you have available to you, can get this really important knowledge and access this work and at least get their stuff started for training.
And maybe even other countries, right? As long as they can understand.
Absolutely, yep, we're international. So we've been working with people in Canada, UK, and Australia. So, yep, we're international.
Amazing. So that's one of the things that when I went onto your website, I was like, wow, you can do this online, especially right now. The video I posted, I think somebody commented like, oh, nobody will kiss anybody right now. It's COVID. And I'm like, that's especially why I thought it was a good time to start talking about this, because for me, it will allow me to prepare better for when the time comes back, so that I can be like, okay, I'm confident in this, I can do this, I know how to approach it. So
yeah, well, and you don't need to necessarily have a full understanding of every single aspect of intimacy work to say, here's how you have a conversation with someone about a kiss, right? So there's different levels depending on what you're working on. So, you know, one of my modules is all about kissing. So let's go with that, just because I know that was the main focus of your last video. When it comes to kissing, the first thing you need to decide is whether or not the kiss is necessary. Does it add anything to the plot? Does it add anything to the storyline? Or is this just gratuitous intimacy that the director's throwing in just to make it really sexy, enticing, cool? If it is not necessary, goodbye, we cut it. We get rid of it, we don't need it. There's plenty of other things that we can do with our time and resources to develop compelling stories that don't necessarily involve kissing. If it's something that can't be cut, so let's say we're doing Cinderella, and the prince and Cinderella have to kiss at the end of the, ball because they're in love now. That's what they've decided. The first thing we do is have a conversation of what is the story of this kiss? What is the important plot point that we are getting from this kiss that we cannot get any other way? So for Cinderella and the Prince, that's going to be, we're in love, everything's fantastic, we're gonna have a great life together right before the clock strikes midnight. Once we have that grounding of here's the story, then we'll talk about the different elements of that story. So who initiates the kiss? Is it something that, does the prince initiate it? Or does Cinderella initiate it? Is it a cool like feminist edgy twist on it where like Cinderella's gonna get hers? Is it something that it's mutual? So they close the distance between each other 50-50. How long the kiss is gonna be. If it's something that's gonna be 3 seconds versus 10 seconds, those are two very different stories. Then we'll also talk about, you know, whether it is open or closed mouth. My preference is always for closed mouth, unless there's a very, very, very strong reason it can't be. I need to be heavily convinced in that regard. One of the other things that we do is we talk about, okay, what are we going to do in preparation for this kiss? So that is when we talk about oral hygiene, that really awkward conversation that nobody has with anybody, but we just kind of hope for the best. I've had to engage with kisses with people who have just come back from their smoke breaks, and it is really not a pleasant experience. When things like that happen, you know, I'll say, okay, so before we do the scene, each time we rehearse, you know, I'm gonna pop a mint. Do you want me to bring one for you? I offer the solution to the problem before it begins. Or even of like, oh, hey, you know what? So since we're doing an intimate scene during the run of the show or during this recording, I'm just gonna make sure I don't eat any garlic or onions before, or anything that might make my breath unpleasant. So if that works for you, let me know if there's anything else I can do. So that way that opens the door for that conversation. That's really the whole kiss conversation, of the fact that we're actually talking about it and saying beforehand, before we just go, here's your face, here's my face, let's meet. We're actually having a conversation about it. It's gonna sound super silly, but you can say, hey, I saw this thing in a YouTube video I watched that I think is really cool and interesting. Do you want to try it? That's always a great place to start. The other thing you can do is say, hey, so just because we haven't really had a chance to work with each other yet, or I don't really know you that well yet, let's talk about how this kiss is going to go. And let's talk about, you know, what might your boundaries be? If there's anything that you feel uncomfortable with, could you let me know? Opening the door with like, hey, let's acknowledge that what we're about to do is weird. So, I mean, it's things like that that I go, okay, how can I offer this to you without making it seem like I'm going to demand it of you? So usually I'll say something like, hey, so I've learned this technique that I think would be really useful. Would you be willing to try it? So I open the door for conversation because they're already curious. And then once they're curious and they go, okay, sure, what? And it's like, well, it's actually about the kiss we're going to be doing in this scene. So I just want to talk through it first, just to make sure that everything that we do is cool with you and everything that you're planning on doing is cool with me, and we can move forward from there. So really opening the door that way, and it doesn't have to be some big heightened, I need to talk to you about the kiss, right? It doesn't have to be this huge weighty thing. It's just, hey, so, you know, it's similar if you were like, okay, so I know the blocking says that I have to walk to the couch at this part, but actually, I realized I'm upstaging you, so let's talk about a way that solves that problem. It's the same thing for kissing.
Yeah, and that's, I love how you brought it up as a, you know, it's a gentle thing. It's not something aggressive that you have to be like, hey, I want it, because that's a lot of the time how people might come off as like, okay, I absolutely need this. I'm gonna freak out if I don't have this conversation right now, instead of that, you know, talking to this new friend that you've made now because they're your scene partner and really asking them, hey, let's talk about this, you know, just as easy as that, which I absolutely love. It's one of those things that you are like, oh, duh, once you hear it, you know, or like, I could just start the conversation. But yeah, in the future, I mean, I'm going to definitely start these conversations when I'm in these situations, because my experiences before have been like, they've never been extremely negative, but they've definitely been awkward and strange, especially, you know, in college when you're young and you don't have any experience, you don't know, you want to do everything right, you don't want to be the person making the mistakes.
What you're speaking to too is exactly the issue, right? The only person to advocate for you is you. that the directors won't step in. The faculty won't step in to assist you unless you're very lucky and they have the tools and have the abilities to do this now. But the reality is, when you're on a film set, it's not the AD's job to come in and tell you, okay, so let's talk about your boundaries with kissing. That's why they hire someone like me to come in to help facilitate that conversation. But if that person's not there, you have to be your own best friend and you have to be your own advocate.
So is there anything you want to share with us, if you want to tell them like how they can get in contact with you, anything that you have coming up that you want to bring a little bit of attention to?
Obviously, feel free to check out our website, heartlandintimacydesign.com. We have a blog there with tons of resources for quick questions about, hey, I'm about to audition. Here are the things I need to know for an audition, how I should prepare for intimacy work as a director. And obviously, our curriculum training is all online, so you're more than welcome to join us over at Heartland. We also will be updating our free online mini course soon, and we will also have a special free course on intimacy and COVID-19 that will be coming soon, so stay tuned.
Thank you so much to Kate. Feel free to go down into the description. I'm going to leave all of the links that we spoke about. And at the end of every video, I feature another channel. This is today's feature. And if you would like to be featured on my next video, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and leave me a comment.